Hello, and welcome back to Blue & Co. The plane flies overhead. So, this episode I'd like to set up a preserved railway. And I've been holding the trains in reserve for this for rather a while. So, they are somewhere around here. This NG preserved groups, these fairly locomotives. So, these are based around here. So, they have some electrical parts, actually. We should deliver the electrical parts before we set them off. But before we go to the two mad, let's just bring the map up. So roughly, where are we? So they're around here. They're around at Kensal Green. Now I think, let's speak about what would be a nice sort of preserved railway. These are quite old. 86 years old. So these will get a good bonus. So I think we want a nice, decent length reserve railway. So I think maybe Little Bristol to East Alexandra, because Kensal Green is quite close to here. So I think, yes, I think that would be quite a nice preserved railway route. So these would be narrow gauge. So we want to make a nice narrow gauge station. There'll be concrete platforms. Let's do that. So let's just have a nice, simple, little station at Little Bristol. So that'll be good. So a couple of benches, maybe a sign, and then that can go. Do we have a nice little building? Yes, a little nice little building as well. They can go. No, not on that end. Let's put it on there. Okay, we're in motion. These are not very powerful trains either, so you probably want to build a nice flat route for these to travel. So let's bring this as far out as we can go, and then this as far out as we can go. So it doesn't need to be too efficient. These are quite slow, so we can actually just use a concrete suspension bridge, and then across here with no too much height difference. So in fact, we could use a girder bridge across here. It's going to be a nice sort of variation in bridges, because these will be limited. These will be limited to very low speeds. So all of those normal things about building, the kind of, not building turns which are too tight or anything like that, we can just ignore. Just build the railway how we would like. So this is going to have to go. Let's go under here. Now we'll need to double track sections of it, but let's build the core railway first. Well, that's no use. That's no good. And there we go. So we go now. There's a little bit going on here, which is the thing. You're getting the chronology of what's happening in my life slightly differently to when the episodes air. And so these are from a while ago. So recently I was talking about tutorials and how do you make tutorials that sort of, I guess, are helpful and useful, and engage people and sort of serve the community well. So, and I think the key to that is making sure we cover topics which are not really that served elsewhere, and maybe not that don't have to find to be totally new, because otherwise you would just never have a tutorial for anything. Now, East Alexandra, how high up is that? And so it is on a bit of a slope, isn't it? So that should be able to build a station at nice height there. That's at 4. That's at 4. So how high is this? This is at 6. So we do need to go downhill. And we need to take 2 downhills. So this is going to be quite slow. But there we go. It's good to go through there and then through there. Hello. Should build a bridge. So yes, but I was musing that it's very difficult to do tutorials and find that right balance. And then, of course, by the time this episode comes out, you probably would have seen my first 4 tutorial, where I kind of found I hope I found the balance which makes people realise, this is what the channel is. This is what the channel's about. and what we do here, which is mostly forget what's going on and build some nice bridges. But at that same time, still make it useful. So I hope we hit the right sort of total balance with that. And lots of things, a little bit of silliness going on in there as a way to introduce a topic. It was quite some diegetic silliness, I guess, was sort of part of the story. So I didn't feel too bad about including it. Right, let's build another platform here. So this is going to be the other end of the station. So we want to build some benches. The 3 benches, there we go. So can we build the ramp on that? Yes, we can. So ramp the right way around? Yes, ramp is the right way around. Good. So there we go. So we got our railway. Yes, we had a little bit of whimsy, mostly about Neil Armstrong leaving his keys on the moon, that sort of thing. Yes, so that's kind of thing of leaving things in space. I mean, there's lots of space junk. You have the whole thing of kind of Kessler Syndrome, which is where there's so much kind of orbital detritus that you can't actually use space. You can't get there because you'll just crash into a satellite. And that's you kind of feel that maybe what space needs is kind of a residence parking permit. That you can't park there unless you live there. Stop people just littering it with their satellites and indeed their cars. I mean, the Mr. Elon Musk is going to get such a shock when he gets his Tesla Roadster, sort of picks it up and goes, and finds that having left it for several years in space, that he's now got a big fine from the council because there's I'm just pondering on what he said. You can't park in space unless you live there. Space. You people keep putting your satellites in our space. We want to park our UFOs there. There we go. Right. Let's just signal this quietly and get this going. So for those of you who have come here from the tutorial, yes, that wasn't a one-off. This is pretty much where it's at. So we are not parking our cars in space. We are building a preserved railway. So we actually have the kind of the bare bones of the preserved railway here. This will need some buses. And so not too much in the way of buses. Should we upgrade the town roads or should we just leave them as they are? I quite like the fact this nice little sort of, we've already upset them. And okay, that's not going to happen. How upset are they? How miffed is this local authority? They think we're appalling. Oh dear. Well, let's leave that alone. They should improve. They should get a bit happier. They're also miffed with us as well. That's just the whole cavalcade of miffedness. Right. Okay. Never mind. Let's see. Kensal Green. They're okay with us. They think we're reasonably good. Ooh, network turbo. They don't need any DMUs currently. What I will do is I'll put some buses into Kensal Green, and Kensal Green can just be modernised. Let's modernise it. This is a nice modern town, so I wanted to put a bus station there, not a depot. Bus. And a bus. And a bus. And then we can put the depot down here. So let's get some buses going, and there's some metro riders. Some dust busters. Oh, puns as well, yes. Now that I at least avoided the temptation to pun mercilessly in my first tutorial. They'll save that for the mainline series. And so there we go. That's there. Let's build some buses. They can go and bus around. I probably only need 3 of them. We'll come back to this and see how the turn is. Manganese. What is manganese? This is a Hymex. This is actually quite late in history to be running Hymex. So we should probably. Wow, those. Oh, I know the 4Fs. That's just because they're not old. So the Hymex, I think, can probably be replaced. So this I think will become... There's some class 59s. What is Limestone Shifter? Limestone Shifter is a high mech as well, yes. Yes, so high mech's getting a bit old. Class 59 should do. That should stave that crisis off. There we go, look at those. So angular. They're hoovering up the road. Or as people who do not use the sort of British brand name co-opting would point out to me, vacuum cleaning up the road. Really dust busting up the road. Anyway, preserve narrow gauge stock. So firstly, we want these to drop off their components. So I need to get those the trains up to where I want to run the preserved railway. So this is going to miff some more local authorities, I think. They're not going to like this. And let's build some depots along here. Let's build a few, sort of one there and then one there. That's probably not the best way to do this, because it's just going to tie up that as a section of line, but there we go. So that's going to come across there. Now, this is only going to be a temporary line. So we're just going to pop this along here. Take it over there. That's fine. Go above. Get a little green. Let's come around here. Let's miff up Bristol some more. They're very little Bristol, isn't it? It's like that. There's Little Bristol kind of work, like a sort of a Little Italy or something like that. And this where sort of Bristolians enter another town. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm also going to signal this. I'm going to signal this in sort of one way. Now these should all be shared orders. So we can do with that. We can go bop, bop, bop. And we can tell them to go to... we didn't put a station. That would help, wouldn't it? So let's have a little station on this. So we're going to tell them to go to the Greenwoods. And then just go to the other depot. So we're just going to go to Little Bristol Depot. And that should be shared across all of those. And that's good as well. So, there's clearly no power. I bet at some point I've converted that depot. And then it's all gone horribly wrong. That's going to be a little bit of a problem. So, that's interesting. So, this may not work out. Because this has somehow been converted. And I don't know quite how to unconvert it. There's obviously some sort of convertibility issue here. Now, hold on a second, and I will see if that can be fixed. And by the magic of editing, other than the AI crashing, we can now run those trains. So, this is a cautionary tale, by the way. So, why did that happen? Now, you might notice if I build a narrow gauge depot, it doesn't look like that. And what had happened is, at one point, while I was messing around in the window that you should never ever mess around with, and the game warns you, don't mess around with this, I'd force upgraded my track set. And as a result of that force upgrading, what had happened there was, and I actually noticed this with the AI. And let's watch these unload, because these are unloading sort of 85-year-old electrical parts. This is like going into modern cars, going into like 90s cars. They made 3,000 for it. Actually, that's not too bad, is it? Yes. So anyway, at some point I'd force upgraded the track sets. And the IDs had changed. They weren't save game compatible. Force upgraded some tracks which were not save game compatible, and it broke my narrow gauge. It also broke the AI's narrow gauge as well. Those will be... I believe this actually just stopped them, hasn't it? Yes. So this is cautionary tale. That's why you should never ever do that. What I did. Because it will break your game, and it actually did break my game. It took me a while to notice. think that I noticed maybe several decades after it broke, but that's why they tell you don't mess around in this window, because you could have 80 years of gameplay before and you notice, and then you just have a ruined save game. So, slight question there. I guess if this is a ruined save game, now there are trains merrily steaming out of here. How did I get away with this? Well, unfortunately, this is a trick which you probably won't be in the situation to be able to do, which is I was able to fix this because this just happens to be my track set. So what I did was I compiled a version of it which allowed the narrow gauge trains to run on this 4th rail, whatever type this depot is. And now I can just convert that back, and then we should have some more magic of editing. There we go, the wand has once more been waved, and we are back. Let's see if the AI crashes again. Anyway, our narrow gauge trains are now trundling off to that depot. So there we go, railway eye, good old railway eye. It's very unhappy about that. So they're now coming to the depot. So what we want to do here is these carriages have, and there we go, preserve railway bonus. Passengers pay more. Ooh. Oh, I know what's gone on there. That's all gone horribly wrong again, hasn't it? But stop. And there you go, stop in the depot. So we're now going to get rid of these old cargo wagons. I'm going to just build some bogie carriages. Look, how many passengers does that carry? 144. Probably didn't want it to be that many, do I? And so, let's see, total cargo, 108. It's got to go up and down some hills. See, these are not that powerful. So 37 kilonewtons, yes, they're not that powerful. So anyways, we need to wait for all of those to get into the depot. And we can start taking away some of this. So this is the don't mess with NEWGRF memorial. So I'm going to leave that depot there, but the rest of it I'm going to sort of get rid of. So that go there. Oh, we're lost apparently. Why are we lost? Oh, because we're trying to go via the depot. So let's send that back to the depot. And then let's get rid of all of this. Oh, there we go. So I don't want to tear up that track again. And turn it into some sort of cycle path or something. That's now set up sort of there. Now they're having some ongoing disaster because these have decided that they want to go to Kensal Green Woods. Let's just delete that order. Ooh, I'm making railway, of course, because I've reloaded a save game, haven't I? Let's not do that. So those should eventually make their way to the depot. Let's start to get some more of these. So let's have another repository of carriages. Oh, these are actually a bit old. They are 88 years. I don't know why those are being counted as old. So let's ignore that. I think that's fine. I don't think their running costs are too high, are they? Oh, no, their running costs are fairly low. I'm about to buy a brand new one. Checking the door by. The running costs are still about 4,225. And I think they halve when they're not running. Oxygen. What are these? These are peaks. Yes, peaks are getting old. So we probably need to replace those as well. This is basically this whole game, isn't it? Just constantly replacing vehicles. Where are the peaks? Let's replace those with class 37s if they're around. Yeah, replace them with tractors. They're close enough. Okay, so Kessler Green is slowly getting some trains. You need to wait for all of these to get back. That's the only fix. These have all gone down there. It was all a nightmare. I see there are fewer narrow gauge trains than I should have. And where's the rest of my energy preserved trains? Let's have a look at this. So, okay, these ones are in a depot, but that's not too bad. We can deal with that. And we can give them some new carriages. So, somewhat 9 of these bogie carriages. Well, these travel 45 actually. So, unlike the preserved mainline railways, which have a limit of 25, I think the narrow gauge ones are able to run at their full speed. So, what do double fairlies do? They do 35. So, they're not going to be that fast, but they're at least going to get a decent speed on. So this one is going to the depot, and this one is. Oh, where is this? That's still fertling about up there. So let's get that one into the depot, and then let's get some new bogie carriages. Now, note that I have to do this manually. So if I were to try cloning these, then I would lose the benefit of the fact that they are old, which I don't want to happen. So I'm just doing this fairly to now go into the depots. Let's watch that go round there, and let's get some bogie carriages ready for it. So, oops. Well, there we go. So those are all good now. And so that, if I get rid of that order, and they now are going to go to Little Bristol, and they're going to go all the way down, they're going to go to East Alexandria. And so I can tighten them here. Let's just make that 6 days and 6 days there. And they will probably space out reasonably well. And the reason they will space out reasonably well is because this has lots of passing places. They move quite slow. But passengers enjoy being on preserved trains. Their payment doesn't decay very fast. So what the preserved railway mechanic does is it takes the payment rate from passengers and it just stretches it horizontally. So rather than after some 50 days they start getting annoyed, they're quite happy to travel for some 150 days, which is good because we've got quite a lot of pauses in there. And we also have quite a few hills. It'll take a while. Remember, it's actually apparently preserved railway passengers went on a preserved railway a while back that apparently there's some very large hill on the route, and the train people were getting they were very adamant that it would be good for us to be on the train as it went up the hill. Apparently it would get sort of a lot of chuff on. There would be very much chuff coming from the train as it went up the hill, and we would apparently enjoy that a lot. Sort of revving up your train. That's probably what you do in preservation, because most of the mainline preserved railways. I don't want the console. Most of the mainline preserved railways only go 25 miles per hour. They're not allowed to go that quickly. Let's remake that in the middle. That'd be nicer. So obviously you don't have much opportunity to really rev them up. The sort of Tornado, the sort of the Peppercorn A1 that's been rebuilt, obviously is mainline. That can actually be used at speed. But the other ones are kind of old. They're really allowed to kind of potter around. Anyway, these trains are now. You go there, you get a nice view of the main freight line as you go over that bridge. And so this is good. This is now going to be NG preserved. I think is going to become the. Where does this go? This is going to be the North Bristol Preservation Railway. So, if I'm allowed. Let's use RWI. There we go. Short for either railway or runway. And there we go. So these are still sitting in a depot. Ah, yes, there's more trains we can pile out of the depot here. Cause a little bit of chaos as they emerge. But that's good. So these are going to be waiting. Some around here. So that's been a nice sort of task for an episode, hasn't it? Aviator Preserve Railway. So this is carrying 1 passenger. This is carrying 5 passengers. There's not that much going on. Let's see if Bristol are any happier with us now. We provided some sort of service to them. It'll probably take them a little while to be happier, but hopefully at some point we can then start building some buses and things in there. Because we need to connect this up really to the rest of the world. At the moment, it is just a railway that's used for the actual passengers. So we do need some connections to the outside world. But yes, this is coming down 35. So this is really, they kind of set this up to sort of establish the difference between a preservation railway and just a functioning narrow gauge railway. But the narrow gauge is still sort of a kind of a tourist attraction. So whose was that? Oh, that's fine. That just happens every so often. A massive explosion. She finds a way to work this into preservation railway, crashing into preserved road vehicles for vintage level crossing accidents. I'm thinking Eurocargo, that's a bit nippy, isn't it? 72 miles an hour. And no, we don't need that. A330 we don't need. A340 we probably don't need either. I shall leave that. So there we go. So that had one passenger on it. 112 pounds. Yes. Maybe not, but as we get a few more passengers, they should sort of sort themselves out a little bit. They should start getting more and more service. So, and even if not, it's quite nice to run this just as a sort of happy little preserve line, and to keep our old trains busy. And so, if you have more passengers on it, it will actually work out quite well. But obviously, these are only little villages, so we're not going to get many passengers yet. But maybe in the future. So 5 passengers. Let's see how much this makes. Let's see. There's quite a few tiles. See this? Quite a good distance that we're travelling. So if we take this rough distance here, there's about 160 tiles. Volvo FH12 and 1992 stock. So about 160 tiles. So if we look at the cargo payment graph for that, that's 20 squares. And so each passenger, if we were delivering it, it'd be I'm not going to bother the calculation. That's way too much. But you'll see it's multiplied by 160, so we multiplied by 8. So about 1,200 per passenger if we transported them instantly. Obviously, they're not instant, so it's less than that. But there's enough passengers from East Alexandria. There we go. So that's been a nice task for an episode, Build a Preserve Railway. And I shall, with that done, see you in a future episode.